Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. This is really exciting. I tell you, the work is never done in this building, and this is something that is near and dear to my heart. As was stated by Christina, I do serve on the Juvenile Justice Policy Oversight Committee as one of the co-chairs for the education work group. And this year we are working on a priority bill that is being housed under the cognizance of the Higher Education Committee. It is House Bill 5339, and it is an act prohibiting the consideration of school disciplinary history during admission process at an institution of higher education. And you may say, why is that important? But let me first give you a little bit of background on the Ban the Box. Ban the Box was something that started back in the late 80s, 90s, that was created for criminal history, right? Because we understood that there are, and I learned this when I chaired the Labor Committee and actually did a task force on the collateral consequences of a criminal record. And the two major things that came up at the top of the list, 1 and 2, was housing and employment. And why is that important? Because when you're released, the first thing they tell you is you need to find somewhere to live and you need to find a job. And in the state of Connecticut, there are almost 600 barriers to employment. So we adopted this, and even the U.S. Department of Education co-signs on this. And it was found to be very effective. So fast forward down the road, here we are. We're looking at adding to that, and this already been done, but this is what Connecticut's looking at doing, adding to that the history around disciplinary action. And that is important because, unfortunately, there is a disproportionate impact that occurs, especially when we talk about school discipline. And there's no surprise, or there should be no surprise, that the disproportionate impact falls on communities of color and students who are Black and brown, or classified, called Black and brown. And the history with education, we know that any record of action taken against a student, and this is how we're defining school disciplinary history, any record of action taken against a student by secondary school or post-secondary institution for the violation of a policy, right? And because education is key, it is the key component that levels the playing field to the advancement of all students, all people. It should be equitably accessible to all, right? So we're looking at Ban the Box and how it emerged and how we got here. And over time, how it has actually been proven effective. And as I stated a few minutes ago, supported by the U.S. Department of Education. And here in Connecticut, we have something that's called Common App. And that is the common application that's used throughout the state for higher ed. And they actually have also adopted the Ban the Box on both criminal history and disciplinary action. So why are we here? Some people are not interpreting it the way it should be interpreted. So now we are put in a position where we need to put this into policy. And this would be looked at as a removal, right? It's shown significant increase in the rate of which minority applicants complete an application for higher ed. It also is something that would benefit students, not only students, but we look at community, we look at the economy, we look at all the advantages, right? When you hold people back, when they are not able to get a higher education, what does that mean? I mean, we all have been kids, right? And what were we told by our parents? That we must go to school, we need to go to college, many of us, not all of us, but many of us, in order to succeed, in order to bump your pay rate up, in order to have success, and to live a comfortable life, or AKA the American dream. So there are concerns, and there are pros and cons. And I think one of the biggest concerns that sticks out to me is the fact that there's a concern around safety, right? If we're not getting this information on the front end, are students at higher education institutions going to be safe? Well, I think we can answer yes to that, because there are checks and balances when we talk about doing this. This is for the application process only. So it doesn't mean that the question can't be asked, right? But we want for students to have the opportunity to present on merit, right? What they know, what they bring to the table, and we're not talking about their past mistakes. We want to offer them an opportunity for redemption. You know, we often talk about rehabilitation, but where's the redeeming qualities and where are the redeeming practices and policies that would help to, you know, lift the student up that is actually decided, you know, yeah, I made some pretty poor choices in high school, but I'm ready to get my act together. Bless you. Bless you, Bless you, Sarah. I'm ready to get my act together and move forward and be a positive contributor to my community, to my family, and to myself. You know, personally, giving myself the tools. Representative Nolan talked about the importance of tools. Well, it's important that they have the tools, but what's even more important is that they're taught how to use those tools. If I hand you a hammer and you've never seen a nail, what you gonna do with a hammer? Right? So it's really important that we put these things in place where we are providing the services and the policies that support personal growth and intellectual growth. We don't want students to get stuck. And in my community that I represent, the 94th District of New Haven and Hampden, we have students that are getting stuck in a system that I will say was designed to create some of these issues that we deal with. So how do we break down the barriers? I believe that House Bill 5339 is a key component to doing that. I think that we have to open up doors and give students, all students, equal and equitable opportunities to succeed. So I just want to mention some of the things that I think are important to mention because of some of the controversy and some of the concerns. How would we do this? You know, like I'm looking at an individualized review where we would actually look at the individual student and we would take into such factors as the nature, severity, and time of the offense or infraction, as well as rehabilitation and mitigating factors. All of that should be considered. We're looking at fairness and equity, you know, and to avoid practices that disproportionately impact individuals from marginalized communities or perpetuate systemic inequities. And we know this is real. I mean, as someone, so-called Black woman growing up in America, I can attest to some of these inequalities and inequities that exist in our public school systems and even our private school systems, all school systems. So the transparency piece is also important, and I believe that admission policies should be clear regarding criminal and disciplinary histories, how it impacts and how it is considered in the process, so that students don't have to feel deterred, because that is the other thing that is happening. Right now, students get to that question, they're like, and they throw it away because they feel like once I check that, once I answer that, it's a wrap. You know, I'm just gonna do for myself what they're gonna do with this application when they get it. So I think that is really important. And then another important piece to this is accountability, right? Holding students accountable and making sure that they understand, you know, the consequences that come with, you know, criminal activity and behaviors that break policies, and understanding why it's important to adhere to rules and regulations, but also understanding that we are all human, we all fall short, and that we all deserve another chance. And we often use second chance a lot, but I've always said, what do you say to people that live in communities that were never given a first chance? Is it a second chance? So for a lot of these students, it's a first chance. So I just want to, you know, make sure that we understand what we're dealing with, who's being impacted, and why this policy is so important. We really are looking at advancing this state in ways that matter. We want to talk about social cohesion, how communities are strong. They can't be strong unless families are strong. And families cannot be strong with students who cannot pursue a higher education or, you know, look to prosper financially. Financial gain is a big one. There's a stigma that's attached to this. You know, if you've ever been in school and gotten in trouble and you know you just had a bad day and made a bad decision, should you have to be stigmatized for the rest of your educational career as you pursue a degree or try to pursue higher education? We don't believe so. So that's another reason why we're doing this, because we really believe that it promotes equity. and it does that by preventing the bias that students may face. We want to focus on, like I said, the academic merit, and we want to encourage rehabilitation. We want to encourage students to seek redeeming qualities, right? And to seek higher education so that they can become more productive members of our community and society at large. And it does reduce the stigma. It does reduce the barriers. And it aligns with the educational mission, and that is which often emphasize the importance of second chances, or I will say first chances. And it also provides opportunities for personal, intellectual, and economic growth. All of these things are critically important. And yes, ultimately, the decision to prohibit the consideration of school disciplinary history during the admissions process involves balancing the principles of equity and fairness with concerns about the campus safety and community well-being. Institutions must carefully weigh these factors and consider potential strategies for mitigating risks while promoting inclusivity and equitable opportunity. And that is what we're seeking to do with this bill. Level the playing field. And just put some, we talk a lot. We want to put some rubber in this, where the rubber meets the road. We really want to make sure that we're not just talking the talk, that we're walking the walk. We want to make sure that we're providing the students and higher ed with the tools that they need. And I think this will also provide an opportunity for higher ed departments to actually communicate better. So after you get through the application process, you find that you do have a student that has a criminal history, or what we're addressing here in this bill, disciplinary action in school. They have a counselor, they have different departments they go into, financial aid, that all these departments are communicating, making sure that the other barriers outside of this are not going to be a hindrance to this student's success. So I hope that you all will share this information with everyone you know. If you have, and you do, I'm hoping you do, all our voters, our registered folks in the building, you have a state rep and a state senator. It is my ask today that you reach out to them and ask them to co-sponsor House Bill 5339 and to actually advocate for this bill in higher ed. It did have a public hearing last week, and they are meeting Thursday. And it is our hope and my prayer that this will get out of committee so that we can move forward with actually crafting and drafting the actual language that will go into this bill. So thank you all for being here today. And we appreciate your advocacy. And I'm just asking one last time, please take this information and share it. Everything that's coming forward. Rep. Nolan, myself, and Rep. Gilchrist, we work real hard on the JPOC committee to make sure that we're doing what needs to be done for the kids that often their voices go unheard. They're not voiceless, they just go unheard. So we're here today to amplify those voices and the needs of this community so that we all can succeed, because when they're doing well, guess what? We're all doing well. Thank you.